Awesome. All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you. Thanks to those of you who are able to join us here. We're gonna run through our June Stars meeting. And welcome. And I actually do see possibly some new people on here. First of all, welcome, Mr. Ryan. I know we've talked before. You have some big shoes to fill. So thanks for being here.
Good morning.
And I see Amanda Ernst and CK Crouch. I don't believe I've met either of you before.
Hello, my name's Amanda. I'm the educator for the emergency department at St. Elizabeth's Hospital, so I'm just popping in.
Awesome. Welcome.
That's great.
I'm Cindy Crouch. I'm from Holy Family Hospital. I'm the ED facilitator and emergency preparedness.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you both for being here. Awesome. We're going to toss a few kudos out. We've been getting some great reports of home visits. People have actually been taking some home photos. So this is kind of an exciting thing to get back to. I know we kind of backburnered this throughout the epidemic, but it seems, you know, families and providers are communicating and everybody's feeling a little more comfortable with it. And so I know SCAD's done a few that they've sent us pictures from, and then University of Missouri out in Columbia has been going to meet some of their families, getting us a new photo to put in the STARS website for their providers. And then, of course, inevitably out of that always comes a few like, hey, we need to update just a couple of things. For instance, this young man was no longer on a ventilator when they got to his house. So that's good news, and we love to hear it. Like I said, I know that this is a little bit different between departments and resources and the amount of time you have to dedicate to this, but it continues to really be a great cornerstone for understanding the kids, for the ability of your agency to touch base with the kids prior to an emergency. And then, you know, if we can help by updating the plan for you and putting that photo in to help your other providers, it kind of a nice synergy there. So certainly, as you guys are able to, I do think we're to a point where we can start to pick up home visits as long as they're done safely. I did want to give a shout out to Mr. Chris Torno. He was one of our STARS coordinators from Eureka for a long time, and he's done endless amazing things. I'd spend 30 minutes telling you all the amazing stuff he does. And we wanted to welcome Mr. Ryan Darnell, who will be stepping up as the STARS coordinator there for Eureka. So good luck, buddy. I also wanted to give a shout out to Union Ambulance. They have been bringing us a super sick kiddo who requires some steroid administrations, and we're talking about 45-50 minute transports with a pretty sick kid. And I think as Duck Laffy worded it, this is the kid where you call the PICU and the PICU says, oh no, not him. So he's a bit of a challenge to manage. And these crews are taking care of him and getting him all the way to us in one trip without having to stop at outside facilities. And that really is phenomenal. I will say, I don't even know the right way to phrase it. He's atypical in his presentation, and that his temp goes low. I don't know if that's just a cold shock and it still is, you know, he gets septic and drops his blood pressures and gets cold instead of hyperthermic. But
he can't regulate anything in his entire body. He absolutely can't. If you put him somewhere cold, he gets cold. If you put him somewhere warm, he gets warm, especially if he's not getting steroids. The sodium goes up, the sodium goes down. He has very little ability to regulate his body. It's just the nature of his bad brain disease. So he's kind of a cold-blooded animal. He'll react to kind of whatever. Or he can, obviously, to some degree, but under any degree of stress, he just will not be able to maintain almost any of his bodily functions. It's just a bad situation.
So kudos to them. I talked to the crew and they did amazing. They sat through traffic even on their way here the last time, and did a great job. So I did want to call up one other call. We actually kind of found out this one retroactively. This was a referral to us after the call. We did not know about this kiddo, but Big River ran a vomiting call, and fortunately they encountered a really good mama bear who told them exactly what was going on and what was up with the kid. And fortunately, is a story that we're all starting to get more and more comfortable with as time goes on here. But you can kind of see why mom called. You know, it's just that she had never given the shot, so she was a little uncomfortable with that. And she was a little worried about him vomiting in the backseat where she couldn't take care of him. So all reasonable reasons. I talk in some of my other lectures of why a special needs parent needs us, to administer medications that are not comfortable with, or to be a taxi ride, the most navigable taxi ride of your life, just so a special needs parent can take care of their kiddo in the back. So anyways, they did end up giving the emergency dose steroid that mom had on hand, and they brought him. Unfortunately, I can't give you, there wasn't a super quick resolve on this one. It wasn't the 8 to 10 minutes and he's better, but he did slowly improve over time. They did admit him just to keep an eye on him. And what ultimately kind of came about, he had some acute gastroenteritis caught from his father the week before. So once they kind of got that under control, he was only admitted overnight. And then he was sent back home on his normal prescription. So it was a good catch. Their crew reached out to their STARS coordinator, and he immediately sent us the referral, and we got the kiddo in. So kudos to them on that, though, for just sometimes you go on the calls and you don't know quite what's behind door number one. And I thought they reacted well and rolled with it and did a good job by the kid. So on that note of kind of the referrals and resource updates, I just wanted to let you guys know we do continue to make some improvements on the STARS website to the resources tab too. That's probably one everybody doesn't go to quite as often. But I did recently update the STARS referral form in there. And I just wanted to explain why, because sometimes this is a little uncomfortable, especially when people are doing interviews and you feel like you might be getting a little bit invasive, asking some extra questions. But part of what this goes to is we do, first of all, when I record this information in the website, this is not a lot of stuff that just, it doesn't go out on the kids form. It's just stuff we track in the background. And it's part of our grant funding and a lot of the studies we have to do. We have to have this extra information on hand and be able to provide it. And I really wanted to emphasize when you're asking the insurance question, that is, we don't need to know the name of the insurance agency. I know you guys have it because you have to do it for your trip sheets, but we just need private insurance or Medicaid. And in all honesty, most of the time it's both. You know, they have some components of both. So just as best you can on this stuff really does help us out if you're in that situation where you're taking a referral for us. And like I said, we kind of are able to track that in our demographics. Another thing you'll find in there for any of the language barrier folks, if you're encountering a Spanish family, we did get the translations done for both the HIPAA waiver. So obviously that's a slightly better thing to ask, you know, a language barrier family to sign a form in English. That seems a little unfair. So we did get the Spanish form is done. But maybe even of more use to you, especially at PR events, or if you're having that one-on-one, you know, family encounter, the parent guide to 911 has been translated to Spanish. And certainly for STARS, I'm not going to say like that might actually just be beneficial for a family with, you know, any high-risk Spanish kiddo, just some good information for them to have on what to expect on calling 911. And all of those are available for download out of the resource site. Something else developing on kind of our side projects through the Oasis LMS. I did want to talk about the fact we do have it set up with your guys' agencies in, and I want to emphasize, sorry for my hospital folks, but the LMS is only giving credit for EMS right now, so there are no nursing credits on there. But of importance, you can guide your learners if you want, or you can keep track of them. And so I don't have this turned on for all agencies. I'm more going to just put it out there, and as we start to work with you, whether because we gave a training at your agency or if you have interest in participating at this level, but we can create a manager for your group. And I'll use Lime here as an example just because I was out there last month. But they have, you know, 14 of their providers are in. You can see what classes those different providers are enrolled in and what they're taking and progress. So whether you want to issue it as a course or whether you just want to have a standing like, hey, I think everybody at this agency should have the 30-minute trach course or the 30-minute pediatric gastric tubes course. You can assign it to your providers and you can check and see if they're doing it. And so just to kind of meant to be a resource, whether you want to use that as one of your monthly CE opportunities or something like that. So I'm happy to work with whatever groups want to do this. this is not mandatory. I can also just provide links and you can send your people there and you don't have to manage them. But especially for your medical officers and people who are in that role, it seemed like a super cool extra function that might be useful, especially if you're one of those places that has a lot of, significant turnover. This is a way where you could say, okay, 90% of my people have had this course. We just onboarded 2 or 3 or 4 new employees. We need to catch them up to date on these couple of things. And you could assign the course to them and see if they do it. And then they get their CEs at the end. So always got to have that carrot. So like I said, just some things that are in there, just some stats, the ability to track and see if people, what portions they've completed, what they're missing. So it just kind of gives you a little bit of control within the LMS to manage your employees and your people you work with. So there's, like I said, a couple different options. If you don't want to deal with being the person to assign courses, that's okay. I have the links and I can just send you the link for what you want your people to take. But you do have the ability to do some user management if you want to add employees, remove employees, however you want to do that. So awesome. Going to run through a couple of our numbers here. So there's 30,000 foot view of stars. And let's see, 842 active as of this morning. You can see this is sort of just our overall big screen we load into. I have most of this broken out for you guys on the next couple set of slides, except for this one. We can see St. Charles County still leading the way there. For new approvals, we did get 10 new kids added for last month, for the month of May. It shows 20 doctor approvals. That's because it takes 2 docs to approve every kid. So Morella had to explain that to me. So please don't feel like that wasn't obvious. And user logins, continue to see pretty, like I said, pretty solid numbers, really commensurate with last year, just that slight uptick as always. My dispatch agencies are continuing to win the day, as they should, I hope, from here to the end of time. So kudos to them. And there's the monthly breakdown. You can see Central County, Collinsville, and Jeffco. We might have to convince them to combine their 1 and 2 so that they can hang out in this competition, but they got the bronze medal for now. So on that note, I don't see a lot of my dispatch agencies on here. But one thing, I'll talk to them about this, or if you're a couple of my agencies here where you do still have your dispatch in-house or you deal with them as medical control, we are building out a dispatch flag report. I know some dispatch agencies still want to do this and some do not. But the idea that if they want to tag an address still, just so it comes up on their CAD, they can receive a report with the kid's number, which dispatch agency he lives with, and then a link to the care plan if they want to be able to drop that in. They can drop that as a pre-note to a crew. I will say if it comes that way, instead of the dispatch link through the STARS website, you are still going to have to remember a username and a login. I'm sorry, a login and a password to get it if they send it to you that way. But there still might be some value there, especially if you've got your generic truck set up and people can log in quickly. So like I said, I'll kind of talk more to the dispatch agencies about that. Emergency activations for the month of May, we had 76. And for dispatches for May, we had 19. So kind of holding steady. Had 31 transports of STARS kiddos last month. This is actually, you can see we did have somebody use the special protocols. So that was another steroid administration for that kiddo. And then we had 1 refusal that we know of. I was going to see if Gina wanted to talk about this, but this kiddo continues to be kind of a fascinating story or development. I believe we're reaching the point where he just has ketamine in the home and parents are giving it frontline now before EMS ever gets there. So he's gonna be an icebreaker in a lot of ways.
Do not try this at home.
Yeah. Only with your horses, just not kids.
Yeah, just saying. That's really awesome, but it's unusual.
Yeah. I did just want to click through disaster reports here, just ability wise for everybody here to kind of know. And I think that this is a little more poignant when you see it in person. So I've shown this, I think, at a couple, I'm sorry if you've seen it before, but have been working on this ability to really granularly break down the sickness of our kiddos, especially with regards to disaster, and whether they, what kind of level of care they might need, especially like a mass power outage, a mass weather event, some sort of thing. You know, what would be a quick way to know who's sickest in your district, who maybe you should talk to within the first couple hours versus the first day versus the first week. And so let me go ahead and select everybody here. So this is, you know, stars at a high level, 366 kids qualified for some level of their medical equipment. You know, critical is going to be your vents, your suction equipment, oxygen dependent, all that kind of stuff. Things that really, like if they have power outage, they might get into trouble within the first couple hours, and really quickly need some assistance, or minutes if you're dependent on your ventilator. And so versus high, you know, they could still get into trouble within the first day, but maybe you got some more time to check on them. Two is going to be more like critical meds, and things like that. And then low is really kids who don't have a lot of tech dependence, but one thing I included in here that would be important for a mass evacuation, kids who have mobility issues, so wheelchair dependent, requiring some visual or auditory support. So, you know, if you have a kid who can't hear you in the middle of an evacuation, that seems to me like a pretty big deal, or a kid who's visually impaired. So, you know, like where are the sets of kids where, hey, we're having to evacuate this section of the county because of flooding or fire or whatever the story is. Can we get this kid out? So we continue to kind of build those reports. I mostly want you to know about them. So when that event happens, to me, this is something that's going to come out of, you know, incident command, but like, you know, we know that they can send somebody to us. Like we have that resource and we have the ability to run those reports for them really quickly. I mean, we can click real time here. So as far as, let's say St. Louis area. And then I saw, who did I see? Saw a couple people on. I'll pick on Eureka since I know you guys got a lot of kids. So for instance, you know, Eureka, if you had something large happen out there, and you ran this report, you would get that you have, you know, 6 kids, 3 which have critical requirements, and then you would have 3 who are a little bit lower, but, you know, just, okay, something huge is going on out here. It's been a day. Let's check on these 6 kids and see how they're doing. So any questions about that at all for me, guys? It's sort of food for thought. Like I see a lot of future development with this. I want to make sure people are aware of it. And then just to kind of break those disaster categories down, that is how we differentiated on them. So awesome. Other than that, I did not have anything else new to add. Trish, did you have anything for the meeting today? Your spacebar also mute.
Sorry, I had to shut down multiple screens to unmute myself. Multitasking. No, just thank you, everybody. And we always sincerely appreciate your participation in everything you do. So, thank you.
Doug Laffey, anything in your world?
Not that I can think of. Did we have a kid that was sent home or was gonna, Trisha, that with like mom was supposed to like mix up hydrocortisone or something like that? Was that, they were trying to send someone home. It's just, it was another example of how challenging it, you know, the idea of what I think sometimes what the hospital people think can be done and what can actually be done.
Oh,
So-
that was a while ago. Are you talking about the one where they didn't train your mom to give
Yeah,
the steroid?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When I went up there, nursing was like, no, that's for EMS to give. I was like, well,
Well, maybe you should tell the EMS to get.
yeah, I was
So
like, I
it-
could, yeah.
Yeah. Even after all this time, we continue to have those kinds of issues where there's just a complete lack of understanding of what's going on out there. But that kid from Union is really something. He's a really challenging guy, and bypassing everyone and coming to us right away. That just absolutely makes all the difference in the world for that guy. We gave him another slug of steroids when he got here. He's still pretty sick. You really, you know, the steroids are good. as my wife, who's an NP up in the PICU, says, no one should die without some steroids on board. Just like, what the hell?
I keep waiting for the ultimate code drug where they just give you
Right,
steroids,
exactly, right,
sugar all right together.
exactly. Put it all in.
Awesome. Did anybody else have anything else for open session? Just open forum. So we'll all hang on if anybody wants to hang on and chat, but other than that, thank you all for your time this morning, and please accept 9 minutes of your life back.
Thank you.
And Nick,
Thanks.
this is
Appreciate
Debbie
all of
Leone.
that.
Can you stay on for just a sec?
Yeah, absolutely, Miss Debbie.
Hey, Trish.
Hey.
What can I do for you, Miss Debbie?
Well, I just emailed you. Sorry, I didn't know if you wanted me to wait till everybody. I just emailed you because I know Southeast Missouri is a little bit of a challenge. And you know, I'm here. So in 60 days, I won't be full-time employed anymore. I'll be 99% retired, but I'd still be more than happy to, you know, I've always thoroughly believed in what you guys do. It's just, you know, so anyway, so my thought was, and I emailed you just as you were starting the meeting, but it's been on my short list. Just if you wanted me to go out to the hospital, I go to them anyway for other stuff. And I have relationships with the folks out at our regional hospitals, and like you're on the phone, I'm there, and you know, that kind of thing where we could maybe try to get this built up better in our region.
I appreciate that. Especially, I know that came up kind of in the CMO meeting. And
Yeah,
coming
that's
up
what made
with-
me think of it. I thought, well, heck, I'm gonna have a little more time.
Yeah, no, and I think that would be awesome, like you kind of said, as a handoff. I think the answer is it works best EMSC style, where there's almost like a pack, right? Like hospitals where I have a champion who's interested in it do really well. And hospitals where like it's just sort of a group manages it definitely struggle a little bit more. So yeah, like especially because of your knowledge, like if you can kind of help identify those people in those EDs, and even if we can just explain it to them, and maybe we can kind of find our champions at each hospital.
Right.
I
But
think that would
the issue there is that there's so much transition. You know, managers for the ERs change continually, and even CEOs change continually. So that's why I thought if there's someone in the area that kind of knows what's going on with those areas, we can keep it moving. You know, because I know there's got to be more kids out there that could definitely be on your list.
There are. We need a lot of help with medical direction. Didn't mean to talk over you, Nick, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
okay.
just think about it. I'm glad to be the feet on the street if you want it. You know, that in our case, that's Pemiscot, Mo Delta, Stoddard, Poplar Bluff, Southeast St. Francis, of course, and Perryville. Our local folks.
And it's all, you know, the turnover has always been an issue. I've obviously been around for a while, and it's always a challenge just when you start building some relationships with people or
Right.
whatever. The next thing you know, the next time you go down there, it's like a totally new group of folks,
Right.
physician wise too, right? They can shift their entire physician